Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to inspire a world where food makes us better. Guys, happy weekend! It's Saturday, it's Sunday, depending on when you are tuning into this episode. And today I have a surprise for you. I have someone on this podcast with me today. To be specific, I have Maverick Willett. Maverick Willett is a transformation female body coach. Maverick works with his wife, Sophie Pelletier. So first about Maverick, he's former Army Ranger and ISSA certified fitness nutritionist. With his wife, Sophie, they empower women 30 plus to look and feel better than they did in their 20s through mindset, nutrition, and fitness. With Maverick on today, we are chatting about this stuff that you're curious about, but maybe never had anyone to ask about this stuff. So we are talking about dark sides of keto and intermittent fasting and free from diets, gluten-free, dairy-free, everything free. We're talking about things like what's wrong with keto and whether you really should consider doing it or maybe not. We're talking about why carbs are in fact essential for health, athletic recovery, well-being, and long-term weight management. What's wrong with eating 70-80% of your calories from fat like you would on a keto diet? And which fat exactly? What's wrong with gluten-free and dairy-free diets? What's the danger of intermittent fasting? Why caloric awareness, or basically being aware of how much you are eating, is actually quite crucial to your health and your well-being and your weight management in our overabundant food environment? And what's the best way to track calories? Should we track calories every day till the rest of our lives? We're going to be talking a lot about key factors in your mindset for long-term weight loss and sustainable weight management. Guys, we're talking about a lot of interesting stuff from scientific and anecdotal perspectives. And I just would like to mention at the end of this intro that me, myself, and Maverick and his wife and a lot of, most of the professionals in this industry, we are all about body positivity, health positivity. We are promoting health and fitness and well-being and mental health on all levels. But please do understand that we are all about body positivity and loving yourself as you are right now, like right this very moment, without changing anything. But also please understand that there is nothing wrong with wanting to get better and look better and feel better in your body. And also please do understand that a lot of diseases like diabetes or cardiovascular diseases and problems, heart problems, problems with your blood pressure, different metabolic issues, those things, a lot of times they would come with excess weight. And so then losing weight is not so much about the number on the scales, but it's actually about improving your health, your well-being, the energy you have every day, your longevity, your mental and physical performance, just, the joy of living your life. So, we might sometimes focus more on this number on the scale, but at the end of the day, we just all trying to be healthier and be fitter and feel better in our skin, right? And so that's the end goal. That's what's most important. It just, sometimes it's easier to focus on what we can measure, and we can measure our weight, right? Whereas other things, like well-being, are quite subjective and might be harder to manage, or harder to assess objectively. But we are all, again, about just feeling and being our best and living our most awesome life ever. So without further ado, please enjoy our conversation with Maverick. I truly enjoyed it, and I believe you're going to enjoy it a lot too. So Maverick Willett, right? That's how I pronounce your last name. So how did you get into this online coaching? And specifically, as I understand, you coach women, right?
Yes, yes. So I had been helping people with fitness for many years. I grew up in a kind of a fitness culture. My parents were both very into fitness. They were both bodybuilders. So I grew up with a kind of a unique upbringing, and I was involved in sports. I was fortunate enough to play in college, play some basketball, and then I was in the military and in Army as an Army Ranger. And so I had a variety of background in fitness, and then kind of the online the influencer age began probably in, around 2008, 2012-ish area. That's when you started seeing a rise in the fitness stuff on, Instagram, social media in general, YouTube. And then the online coaching stuff started up around, 2014, 15, started getting really big. And, at the time I was a personal trainer and just I'd help people in person, but I had no idea because I had a wealth of nutrition knowledge that I wasn't able to capitalize on with people in person as a trainer. But the online space gave me a platform to do that with people all over the world. So I started doing it part-time, probably 2016 or 17. And then took it full-time in 2019, left my full-time job and just pursued it full-time because I found that I was really passionate about it and I was decent at it. And then just never looked back. And it's been 2 years of just nonstop growth and discomfort and just helping lots of people. So I'm very lucky to do what I do, and I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you are enjoying it a lot, Yeah, I see a lot of clients' transformations, and also your content is just sparkling with a lot of enthusiasm every time you create a piece of content. When I watch your content, I have the impression that there is a lot of knowledge, that you have a lot to share, and scientific knowledge, not just, something that you read in some article or something. So where do you usually learn all of this stuff, about different processes in our body that happen when we transform our health or weight?
I had a lot of good mentors when I was up and coming. I can't take credit for everything I know because a lot of it came from just really, really good coaches, people like Shelby Starnes, people like Stan Efferding, AJ Sims, and competition coaches in particular. I learned a lot from them because I started out as a coaching competitors only and then transitioned into lifestyle. And so I brought with me a knowledge base of, all the intricacies of changing the body on a very extreme level, and then taking that knowledge and being able to apply that to lifestyle clients from the standpoint of just the intricacies of our cells and our digestion and quality of life, because obviously competition clients are the extreme, that's not sustainable. It's something that's meant for a very short period. So, obviously when transitioning to lifestyle clients, you have to have something that's more sustainable. And over the years, I've worked and developed kind of my own formula for giving women in particular the tools to get results that they want, but not have to restrict themselves a lot to do that. And that's the key to having balance, I found, especially with mothers and busy professionals. There's a lot of extreme methods out there that are, taking away that balance, giving instantaneous results that don't last. So my goal has always been to give people to that forever answer that they can apply now and for the rest of their lives.
Because for most people, that's what matters, what they can do that will give them the progress, but also the progress that they can maintain without building your whole life around this new diet or, new exercise program. So that's what's needed totally. And a lot, I'm also a coach, and I'm often asked this question, how do you filter the information? What should you pay attention to? What's just noise? So I'm asking you this question: how do you filter all this information? Because science is just it's developing so fast, and there is new article or diet or new protocol almost every day. So how do you filter all this?
That's a great question. Angela, because for the people who are looking for an answer, it's very hard, because I literally just posted a video today about if you Google how to lose weight, the majority of the answers you're going to see are fad diet programs that paid to appear first on the search site, So that's really hard for people to find good information. For us as coaches, it's hard as well because, at the end of the day, we're all kind of doing the same thing. We're if the goal is weight loss, we want to help people find a caloric deficit and maintain that and gain the knowledge to know how to do that. But there's different ways to do that. And I think within the nutrition industry, like you said, there's a new article every day. And so a lot of times articles conflict each other. Studies conflict each other. There's so many variables with nutrition with the human body that oftentimes you can poke holes in almost any study because there's so hard. It's so hard to control everything because everybody's body is so individual. So as coaches, I think the best way is always try to back what you're saying with science. I think is the best thing you can do. And then you also have to toe that line between, this isn't necessarily backed by science, but anecdotally, I've seen it work with hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. So that's tough too, because there's a lot of people out there, the more credentialed folk usually, that don't give a lot of merit to anecdotal data. But at the same time, we as coaches have that firsthand data from working with a ton of people and seeing it work with a ton of people. So that's, in my opinion, that is valid because you've seen it work firsthand. It may not have any science behind it yet, but since you've gathered that data and it works with certain people, you can apply it. And so it's kind of like a fine line, balancing science with what works from experience and just, again, giving people the right tools and making it personalized because, again, there's no one best method for everyone. I do think there's methods that are sustainable for the majority of people, and that's kind of the route I try to go. I try to lean away from things that are too extreme because the average person can't do extreme things long term. And I think that's the best thing we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So choose something that has scientific basis, or at least has the potential to have a scientific basis, because not every study that can be done or could be done is done. Maybe no funding for this topic, or many reasons. And then also anecdotal evidence, of course, counts because our clients try so many different things, and some of them work, and a lot of them don't have necessarily like all the scientific data supporting them. So I'm totally on board with you on this one. While listening to your answers, I hear a lot about extreme methods, and extreme methods not in my opinion, but in my view, those methods are the methods that like restrict a lot of things or make you think black and white, right? Like carbs are bad, carbs are good, fats are bad, fats are like good. So do you think any of those extreme approaches or diets, maybe keto, carnivore or plant-based, do they have a place in lifestyle and weight transformation, or they just useless completely? What's your opinion?
Well, our job, I believe, is to find what is sustainable for the most amount of people. And I think that should always be the goal, because and you've seen me roast keto, like I'm very anti-keto, and I'm very open about that. And there will always be inevitably somebody here or there that pops up in the comments and says, well, but it worked for me. And in my opinion, if something works, it means you're still able to do it. You're still applying it. You can apply, if you're a mother, you can apply it long-term and apply it with your family. You start to draw the line between what's a diet and what's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And that sounds cliche, but it's so true. In my opinion, your nutrition should be something that you can do and enjoy for the rest of your life. And if it requires you to cut out things that you love completely, aside from, drugs and other things like that, mm-hmm. that are obviously harmful, then you're probably not going to be able to sustain it long term. So when you embark on a dietary endeavor, when you're trying to choose a method for yourself, especially if you're a mother, and I keep going back to that because mothers have to juggle so much, mm-hmm. And women have to juggle more than men do. As a woman and as a mother, it's so important that what the nutrition protocol you choose brings balance to your life, and it teaches you caloric awareness. It teaches you how to eat intuitively. And none of those fad diets, keto included, teach you how to eat intuitively. They mm-hmm. just cut out things, and it may seem easier in the short term because it's very cut and dry. Okay, no more carbs. Okay, sure, I'll cut out carbohydrates. And that's assuming that people even are familiar with macronutrients, because most people that I get don't even have a baseline understanding of what foods contain carbohydrates. So I think with any kind of extreme diet, you're thrusting people into a danger zone who are not necessarily educated or have a foundational education on nutrition to do something extreme. And I think a lot of it can create a lot of mental sabotage as well, because keto is very focused on the scale. And I think that pushes women towards evaluating their valuing their self-worth based on a scale number. So I think that can be very harmful as well. If you look at all the fad diets out there and you see what method they employ to get the temporary weight loss, whether it's Atkins, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Herbalife, whatever, it's all an extreme caloric deficit. You're just cutting calories out for people, which again works short term. But to maintain those results, they'll have to continue at that level of caloric intake, and they're not learning caloric awareness. They're not learning intuitive eating. And I think the only way to gain an intuitive eye for eating, how much food should I have on my plate and which macronutrients are in which foods, you have to do some kind of calorie tracking for a short period of time. I think people are scared of the term calorie tracking. It sounds like a lot of work, but in reality, it gives you the tools to never have to track your calories or do a fad diet ever again, because you're gaining that caloric awareness. That's just my take on it. And that's why I always lean towards tracking your calories for at least a short period of time so you can empower yourself with those tools.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also, again, totally on board that people long-term need to develop some awareness about how to eat certain amount of portions or, calories. Like there should be some sort of awareness and the way to measure it, or, people work on it and develop intuitive eating habits when they actually feel whether they should eat more or eat less. So, and a lot of diets, I agree, they don't teach you how to do that. But, in terms of caloric awareness and calories, a lot of those diets, they claim that now that you're on this diet, keto diet or whatever, you don't have to count calories. So what's your take on that? Because that's, a huge selling point, that you basically don't need to count anything. You just count carbs or eliminate carbs and you'll be, fine.
It's a short term, it's a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage, Angel. That's always my analogy. I mean, you don't have to count calories to get that initial weight loss, but down the road, there are other detrimental effects of eliminating carbohydrates completely from your diet. I'm very adamant about that, because there's certain functions in your body, especially concerning your thyroid, that require glucose and require fructose and to work optimally. It comes down to...
sorry to interrupt. Could you give more details on that? Because a lot of people are interested in that.
Okay. Yeah. So the majority of thyroid hormone is converted outside of the thyroid, and a good 20% of it, more or less, is converted in the liver. And you have your two main circulating thyroid hormones are T3 and T4. In order for T4 to convert to T3 in the liver, glucose is required for that process. Glucose and fructose, ideally. So when you completely eliminate carbohydrates, that doesn't happen. You're completely omitting that portion of the thyroid hormone being converted. And I found that even with diabetics, people who were formerly keto, when they're fed fructose in optimal amounts for a certain period of time, and this is verified with blood work, their T3, the amount of circulating T3 in their body is higher. It gets higher. And another thing you can do is that can just validate this is typically people who are hypothyroid have lower body temperatures. You have a certain body temperature your body is supposed to be, and it's after you eat, it's supposed to go up about 1 degree. If you take someone's body temperature who's been doing keto or any kind of low calorie diet for a while, it's going to naturally be lower. And oftentimes you will find that it doesn't get higher once after eating like it's supposed to. They're not processing glucose correctly anymore. So those are my science-backed refutes against keto. Among the other things, I mean, you have thyroid that converts in the gut as well. In order for that to take place, you need certain prebiotic fibers. So I'm very adamant about gut health as well. But that's kind of the scientific basis behind it, because the higher your circulating thyroid hormone is, the higher your metabolism is going to be. And you can't burn fat or lose weight or gain muscle without a high functioning metabolism. And your thyroid is literally the thermostat of your metabolism. So I would much rather help women nourish themselves with the right nutrients, iodine, selenium, fructose from tropical fruits, get those micronutrients. Because again, I've seen as well, a lot of people who are pushing the keto diet, like just take those first results on Google. Most of them are promoting low carb diets and then their version of how to do that, because so they can sell you their products, meals, weight loss pills, etc. And they'll have some kind of ketone shake that contains the nutrients that you're missing out on because you're not consuming those tropical fruits. So that's a way they try to get around that, because they know that people who are doing keto are missing out on a lot of micronutrients. So just a lot of things there in addition to the general attrition rate. Last thing I'll say is I am a member of several keto groups on Facebook, just so I can watch this dumpster fire go on. And the amount of people that are posting in those groups who are falling off the wagon every week, every other week, completely lost, hair loss, lower body temperature, low energy, crashes, just the myriad of negative things that are happening from omitting carbohydrates completely. It's astounding. It's astounding. And that's anecdotal, but I see it every single day. And it's sad to see. And I'd be lying if I said I don't pull clients from those groups, because I see people who need help and they need an answer for their life, not just for 3 months or 4 months, because inevitably down the road, that's when most people see the results stop. So it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, it takes for the body for sure. Like, people say, oh, I'm doing keto like for a few weeks and it's working. Yeah. But the body is pretty resilient. It can go without a lot of nutrients for a period of time. And that period usually depends on how good of a diet you had before. And, with keto, like myself, I used to be keto for actually a few years until my hair started to fall out and until I started to not sleep well and just my stress levels went, through the roof. As soon as I introduced carbohydrates on a regular basis, starches and fruit, my hair started to grow. Everything went back to normal, like magic. So another anecdotal experience.
Yeah. And you mentioned the stress, ketosis is a stress adaptation with the body. It's starting to use itself for fuel. When you don't have adequate glucose, your body's going to start your cortisol is going to be higher, and the effects of prolonged stress in the body are detrimental. I mean, stress is a huge factor in a lot of chronic disease. So, that's a good anecdotal example. I'm glad you're on the good side now.
And by the way, you mentioned tropical fruit. Like I found for me also what works the best is that balance of fructose and glucose. So I usually eat fruit after workout, and then at night I eat something like sweet potatoes or pumpkins, and this works like magic. I feel like so good. Whereas if I actually eliminate one or the other, I almost immediately feel like something is off, like either my performance or recovery or something.
Yeah. 100%. I agree 100%. And I encourage my clients to have a healthy mix of both. And most people aren't getting enough fructose because they've been fear-mongered into thinking that sugar makes you fat. But, fat storage only occurs in the presence of high amounts of insulin, and fructose doesn't cause the same insulin response as glucose. So, that's case in point, like people who say you don't eat fruit because you get fat, you need to run far and fast away from those people, because they don't know what they're talking about. Fructose doesn't have that same insulin response as glucose does. So yes, I agree. Healthy mix is what's best. I'm so glad that you have that balance and you preach that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And in general, in nutrition, what I preach is balance and variety. Instead of, restricting. There is a reason why people became what, one scientist called as opportunistic omnivores. So we eat as much as possible variety. That's what we've always been doing, unless we lived in Arctic and there wasn't, not much variety in the first place.
Right.
Another funny thing, I don't know if you noticed it or agree with that at all. For keto, and fat heavy diets, and also diets that eliminate a lot of food groups, what I'm always trying to kind of focus attention on when clients come to me, like, I want to do keto or something like that. I'm like, if your calories are 80% fat or so, like, where are you getting your nutrients? Like, fat does not have a lot of nutrients, nor do any other food groups if you eat just that food group, actually. And so what's your take on that, from that perspective?
Yeah, I did a video recently where I was kind of just breaking down numbers. I mean, if you eliminate carbohydrates and let's assume you're eating, above starvation level calories, which would put you around, 1,400 calories at the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And 80% of that's coming from fat, which is usually the breakdown with keto on average, because you can only eat so much protein. That means that a good, 1,000 calories are coming from fats. So, there's different kinds of fats, and people don't really realize that. They just think fat is fat, but you have, as you have polyunsaturated, you have monounsaturated, you have just saturated, you have trans fats, right? So if you're not educated on the different kinds of fats, and the majority of that is polyunsaturated fats, that's terrible. That's why you have a lot of people really messing up their cholesterol on keto as well. And to your point, you're missing out on so many micronutrients as well. It's you can't tell me that, having 1,000 calories from fat as your weight loss protocol is a good idea. Just once you say that out loud, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that's probably not a good idea. Because again, most people are protein deficient anyway. So their transition into keto isn't going to change that. They're not going to magically learn how to have more protein in their diet. So the majority is going to be coming from fat. So I'm a big fan of saturated fats, the right kinds, your medium chain triglyceride fats. But if 1,000 calories or more of your diet is coming from fat, I'm willing to bet that a good majority is not the healthy fats, in a good ratio of that. That's another great argument against keto. It's just the amount of polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats that are likely comprising that number is probably way more than is healthy for the body, 9 out of 10 times. And that's assuming the person even knows about the different kinds of fats.
Yeah, exactly. And even in those, polyunsaturated fats, they're like omega-3s, omega-6s, omega-9s, and like all the CPA and GATA and so many other. And usually if we eat a variety of different foods, that's, I guess, the simplest way to get all this variety of different fats. But if we eliminating all these, food groups as much as possible, then we end up eating the same stuff that, doesn't create this balanced diet of all the nutrients that we need. So that's, I think, where a lot of fat diets are actually missing. They give you or mono diet, eat just potatoes. I'm like, yeah, but where is all the amino acids and fatty acids in potatoes?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it comes down to extreme, it's our society has gravitated towards instant gratification and going all in. And that's why the New Year's resolutioners are all gone by February. You can't make these large commitments. The average person can't make huge, large commitments and expect to complete those. And then you get into not completing commitments that you set out to do, and then damaging your trust with yourself, damaging your trust with your own word to yourself. And people just are none the wiser because they see everyone else trying these fads. They don't realize that they're not sustainable. They get into them, and then it damages their self-worth and their trust with themselves and their ability to follow through on anything. And then they're just in this realm of just being totally confused and misguided and just looking for an answer. It's unfortunate. The mainstream nutrition knowledge is so bad and so misleading and so money hungry. It's unfortunate. That's why we're like the Avengers. We come in and we help these people who really need guidance in their journeys and that forever answer.
Yeah, a lot of people who come to me, they just simply don't know what's a balanced meal. Like, what should I have for a simple, healthy meal? What does it look like at all? If we eliminate all these fat diets. Another small thing that I wanted to ask your opinion about is, when it comes to keto diets, and when people say that they eat all the calories they want and they still are losing weight, what I noticed personally from my clients, that when they eat a lot of fat calories, what might be happening, why a lot of them think they eat as much as they want and losing weight, is our digestive system, I think, has a limit how much fat it can turn into energy. And so what I noticed, the bathroom trips change for a lot of people. And I think a lot of that fat actually is just simply not digested, even though people think they're, eating all these calories. What do you think about that? Did you notice, maybe from some people or?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me mute my Facebook here. I'm so sorry. There we go. So yeah, I noticed the same. I think it's I mean, you notice that with any kind of high fat meal, it's more satiating, right? I mean, it's literally slows digestion. Your pancreas has to secrete more pepsin to digest that fat, and you only have a certain amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, you have that, and then bowel motility is going to slow down. And someone with healthy bowel motility generally has a healthy metabolism. Having healthy bowel motility generally denotes having a, everything's working properly. It's like a telltale sign of someone who has healthy digestion and healthy metabolism if they're having regular bowel movements, 1 or 2 a day. And if you're only going, once every 3 days or once every 4 days, there's something wrong. That's not normal. And an abundance of fats can cause that. It's hard to get ample amounts of dietary fiber with keto, because a lot of that comes from fruits. And then we delve into, well, okay, but we're getting that from our veggies and net carbs and all that. All right. But 9 times out of 10, when I talk to someone who is eating veggies, the number one veggies they're eating are raw cruciferous veggies. And when you eat an abundance of raw cruciferous veggies, you're introducing a ton of cellulose into your digestive system, which, as you probably know, we're not made to break down cellulose as humans. It sits in the gut, it ferments, and then you have small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. So then you have that issue on top of now they're trying keto. And then a lot of people try to throw in intermittent fasting on top of this. So now they're only eating a 6-8 hour window. Yeah. And so it's like, how can I combine all the extreme methods and then my results will be better? But what you're doing is causing havoc to your body. And it's just, we could go on and on about that,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't realize that broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, if you eat them raw in excess, if you're doing that every day to get your fiber, you're also getting a lot of roughage in your system, and you're also introducing a lot of cellulose that we as humans aren't evolved to break down. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cause fermentation in your gut, and that's going to impede your digestion, which impedes thyroid hormone conversion, because now your thyroid hormone so a lot of those vegetables are goitrogens as well, and goitrogenic vegetables impede thyroid hormone production. So it's like all this stuff culminating to slow down your thyroid, slow down your digestion, slow down your metabolism, and putting your body in a high stress state. And that's why that's in a nutshell why I'm so against keto right there.
Hey, let's switch from keto to other diets. What's your take on plant-based diet, or what else out there? Like free from, gluten, dairy, and everything. Sometimes clients come to me with this problem.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Gluten is like the most demonized lectin in the nutrition industry. It's the one that gets the most attention. But what a lot of people don't know is it's, one of hundreds of different kinds of lectins, just the one that gets the most attention. And there's so many more things that go into that. For example, I mean, if you eliminate gluten to eat, for instance, I saw some gluten-free Oreos at the grocery store the other day. Mm-hmm. So you're skipping gluten, but you're eating all these sugars and artificial sweeteners, right? Like sorbitol, maltodextrin. You're eating all these fillers, but you're avoiding gluten. Thank goodness you're avoiding gluten, right? So you have that problem, and again, that's just a lack of education. And then a lot of people just assume that gluten is bad without knowing it. Not everyone's gluten intolerant. In fact, very few people actually are, percentage-wise. Statistically, very few people are. I mean, there's more now. There's more problems with the population than there used to be. But still, on a statistical basis, the amount of people who are actually celiac or gluten intolerant is very low. But what happens is, things are demonized, like, meat, dairy, and stuff like that. There's more than meets the eye. So, we're not just what we eat. We are what we eat has eaten. A lot of people are inflammatory to grains in general, the WGA, et cetera, in grains. It's inflammatory to a lot of people, and they don't even realize it. So what happens is maybe they're consuming grain-fed meat or milk or dairy, The cattle are fed grains. The grains are so inflammatory for the cattle that they'll stop eating eventually if they keep being fed those grains. So what the farmers do is feed them sodium bicarbonate, which is the active ingredient in Tums, to quell that inflammation. So they'll keep eating, because grain-fed cattle have a fattier meat and it's more, they're bigger than grass-fed. So they prefer that in the industrial cattle industry. And then we as humans consume those grain-fed products, and a lot of times people get inflammation and assume it's the meat or the dairy that's doing it, when in fact it's the grains. So with a lot of my clients, and this is one of those anecdotal things, I've switched them to grass-fed products, and they've been totally fine. I have a mother of 4 who thought all her kids were dairy, lactose intolerant, dairy intolerant, whatever. Just by switching to grass-fed, they can all consume dairy now.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have the casein A1 versus casein A2 proteins in dairy that can be problematic for some people. I'm a big fan of dairy, so I do everything I can to help people consume that, micronutrient rich food, unless they truly are intolerant. And some people are truly intolerant. But as far as the gluten thing goes, I see it all the time. People tell me, well, I'm gluten-free. And I'm like, well, why are you gluten-free? Was it confirmed on a food intolerance test? Did a doctor tell you were gluten-free? And they're like, oh no, my friend said it's bad, so I stopped doing it. So that misinformation circulates.
Mm-hmm.
And then with vegans and vegetarians, if it's for a personal reason, if it's because you're against animal cruelty, absolutely support you. Do your thing. Totally fine. I'm all for it. You deserve to have that stance, and more power to you. There's a lot of that's a big issue, particularly with grain-fed cattle. But the living conditions are horrendous. But if you're doing it because you think it's healthier, that's where I have to draw the line, because there's no data to support that. And your micronutrient consumption is going to be a little bit hard. I mean, getting enough protein as a vegetarian, if you have physique goals, if you're someone who wants to have a body composition change, a favorable body composition change where you have a certain amount of lean muscle to provide shape, then vegan, vegetarian, keto, any of that stuff, it's not the way to go, because you're lacking the very thing that's going to provide that. With keto, you're lacking carbohydrates, and with vegan and vegetarian, you're going to be lacking protein, and meat is a great source of complete amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
You can get complete amino acids with the vegan diet, but you're also, again, it goes back to the raw veggie thing. Are you cooking your veggies? Are you reducing lectin content? Are you essentially, you'd be jumping over dollars to pick up dimes if you're choosing to be vegan for health reasons. If it's for animal cruelty, I'm all about it. If it's personal reasons, go for it. But if you're saying that it's more optimal or healthy, that's where I draw the line, because it's just simply not. And there's no data to say that it is.
Yeah. And, even when speaking about protein, people are like, oh, there is protein in plants. Yeah, but it's not the same. We're talking about different amino acids. We're talking about fiber that prevents absorption of a lot of that protein. And it's not like actually a lot of vegan people eat ton of beans or all the other, protein-rich foods to make complete protein and complete meals. It's like they just eliminate one group and never put anything back to make a substitution for that. And, with dairy, completely with you, I'm such a huge fan of dairy products. For a period of my life, I also eliminated that, and my teeth suffered. And I realized how my performance during workouts actually suffered a lot, and my digestion also, because calcium is not also, just bones and teeth. It's also digestion and like muscle contraction and so many things. Yeah. And with vegan, vegetarians, and a lot of people trying to eliminate stuff, again, it's like they eliminate, but they never think about what's they eliminating with this. Basically the main calcium source, they just throw it away and never put anything to substitute that. And that becomes a disaster with all of these diets, eliminating stuff.
Mineral balance is big. I agree with you completely. Magnesium, calcium, potassium, sodium. If you're any kind of performance athlete, or if you're someone who just wants to get the most out of your workouts, then mineral balance is so key. And a lot of people are deficient on minerals. So that's, I agree 100%.
Even, sodium, I don't know what your take on sodium is, but for me, I eat very clean. And so for me, there's never a problem of getting too much. For me, it's always not enough. And it was such a huge difference when I noticed that I had my workouts wouldn't work that well. My brain wouldn't fire. I had troubles focusing. And as soon as I added sodium simply to my diet, because again, I didn't have enough in my diet, it all disappeared. It's like everything started to fire again, and it was such a revelation. And, also another not food group, but mineral that is demonized in our society with no good reason.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's so outdated. I went to the doctor a few months ago, routine checkup, and I had my heart scanned and stuff like that, everything come back normal. And he was like, okay, everything looks good. And this is a very elderly doctor, and I since have changed doctors, but this is the advice he gave me. He said, so everything's good, your blood pressure's good, just cut out sodium and you'll be fine. And I said, cut out sodium? He said, yeah, you'll develop high blood pressure if you don't cut out sodium. I was like, so cut out sodium completely is what you're telling me to do? That's your advice to me right now? He was like, yeah, just cut out sodium. It's bad news. I was like, when did you get your degree? In like the 1930s? Like things have changed, man. So yeah. So gosh, it's the sodium thing I don't understand. And I learned that when I was coaching competitors, how detrimental cutting sodium from someone can be. I mean, that's the quickest way to look and feel like crap is to cut your sodium. And a lot of sodium is specifically Celtic sea salt, Himalayan pink salt are high in iodine, and your thyroid thrives on iodine. So aside from everything that you said, muscle contraction, mineral balance, hydration. Yeah. Hydration isn't just water; it's your minerals as well. And I learned this firsthand. When I used to drink just purified water, I needed 1.5 gallons of water to feel hydrated. Now, since I put minerals in my water, just trace minerals, I could drink 50 to 60 ounces and be just as hydrated as I was at 1.5 gallons of purified. So I encourage my clients to do that. And I think that mainstream nutrition over encourages water consumption. You see everybody on Instagram carrying their jugs of water around, and everyone thinks, oh, I have to have 1 gallon of water. But you can overhydrate. It can be detrimental. It can dilute your stomach acids, and you don't need that much water. You just need minerals to complement that hydration. So that's something that I learned in my own journey and as a coach as well.
Yeah, definitely. And again, like mainstream nutrition science doesn't really tell you those details, and people for no good reason end up eliminating sodium and everything. The same with eggs. People still come to me and they're like, isn't it like bad for you to eat eggs? I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah,
I love eggs. Another source of selenium and iodine, great for the thyroid. This is our job though, Angela. Like we're battling the misinformation. We're battling the fad diets spreading their bull crap. It's a constant battle. And I see it's just every single day a new slew of people who are being misled and being told these things, and they just don't know any better because, again, Google is the main source of information for everybody on the planet. That's how people learn things. And when the majority of answers on there are misinformation, how could they know any better? The big hitters, the big fad diet hitters like Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem have the money to pay to appear first in that search. If they're searching for weight loss, those are the solutions Google's going to show them. And so automatically millions of people every day are being pushed into a new fad diet and restriction, elimination. And that's what we're fighting against. We're fighting the good fight to prevent this misinformation and to help people get good information. It's tough. That's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree, but I think eventually, at least that's my hope, we're going to have a system that's going to support better choices. Like, it's going to be easier for people to make the right kind of choice, not like struggling through finding, right solution, good information. We talked about diets and, what's like good, what's bad, what's kind of okay. But you are coaching, you're helping women specifically to change their weight a lot of times. Of course, it's all about health, but a lot of people come to us because they want to see the change in the mirror, right? So could we talk a little bit more about that and maybe about your best advice, your base take on weight loss methods that help people to, gain more health, to reach their goals, but also to maintain it. Maybe there are some hacks or better methods that you found that work for people and women specifically.
Well, it's kind of a tough question because as much as we've talked about nutrition, I've found through the years that the bulk of the journey comes down to what's going on up here. There's a lot of self-sabotage when it comes to struggling with weight loss. There's a lot of misperception on what's realistic in a certain time frame. So I do a lot of rewiring as a coach. I do a lot of helping women rewire their minds with not equating their worth with a number on the scale, because as you and I know, there's so much that goes into that number every single day. And I'm sure you've seen this with your clients. On a weight loss chart, if they start here and 6 months down the road, they're here, that's all that matters. What's in between usually looks like this. Mm-hmm. and that's normal. That's what weight does. You can lose or gain 6, 7, 8 pounds overnight. But body fat doesn't work that way. It's much more linear, provided you're doing the right things. But because our society is encouraged to seek instant gratification, people have a real struggle with accepting that the results are going to be compound interest from small habits over time. And I see it every single time a new client comes in our program, 2 or 3 weeks in, like they come in super enthusiastic, and then 2 or 3 weeks in, especially if they have a fad dieting background, they're discouraged because the scale, even if the scale's down, it's not down far enough in their eyes. And I have to do a constant rewiring and encouraging and support kind of approach with that mindset. It's like, look, I know you've gotten results quicker in the past, but if that worked, you'd still be doing it. There's a reason why you're not doing that anymore, and you're still looking for an answer. It's because this is the right way. Sustainability requires a gentle coaxing of weight loss, not, a crash diet. Mm-hmm. For those results to stick, not only does it have to be slow and sustainable, but you have to develop the mindset tools to maintain it as well. So, negative self-talk is a lot, because a lot of women compare themselves to results they see online, or photoshopped pictures of Instagram influencers or magazine covers that are already manipulative to begin with. So they compare their journey, and they're saying, well, why am I not losing weight as fast as this person? So helping them focus, put the blinders on and just focus on their body, their journey. They're going to have friends and family come in that try to dissuade them. Hey, I'm doing a juice cleanse. Hey, I'm doing a detox. Hey, I'm doing keto. They have to ignore all that and understand that if you want different results, you have to do something different. And while also our job, it's hard as a coach as well to also give the results, to continually stoke that motivation, because people are motivated by results. So you're always kind of having this balance of helping people get the results they want, while also helping them develop the mindset to maintain those results. And I think that's the true gift we can give as coaches, is helping women in my situation, helping women speak to themselves differently. Mm-hmm. I mean, we sometimes, we speak to ourselves worse than we would speak to our worst enemies, and we're very critical. So affirmations are a big part of my program. Meditation, deep breathing. I think any good coach should employ these mindset tools to help people visualize where they want to be kind to themselves during the process, trust the process. I think taking care of your body is the greatest form of self-love. So if you want to be healthy, it's going to take something that is long-term oriented. So I've had clients for 2.5 years now that they got the tools a long time ago, but they love the support, the community, and the mm-hmm. constant emphasis on mindset that keeps them progressing. And so it's a lot of mental, it's a lot of mindset. We're all a product of our past traumas, our relationships, our upbringing. I have women who were put on, Weight Watchers when they were a teenager, or they were put on some kind of meal replacement shake program when they were, 10 years old, because their parents told them they were overweight and needed to lose weight. So they're dealing with that now as a 45-year-old woman, trying to rewire that. And that takes time. Mm-hmm. And that's tools that they will never get with a fad diet.
Yeah.
You'll never get that support and those tools from, Atkins, Weight Watchers, except whatever fad diet. They don't give you that. And that's what it takes to actually, with anything in life, to have long-term success, is the ability to delay your gratification and develop small habits that compound over time to give you that amazing product, a year down the road that you can be proud of and maintain. That's our challenge as coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mental attitude, mindset transformation is like the biggest area of change for a lot of people who are coming to us to change their weight and their health. And I also see that this is the area where most people really struggle, because they come to you thinking that you'll give them this magic plan that's going to transform everything, and now you don't really have this. Instead, you asking them to go on a journey to work on themselves, in their mind, their emotional health and mental health. And for a lot of people, it's the challenge in itself, and not a lot of people actually are willing to go through that, especially with fad diet mentality. That's. I totally on board with that. It's internal transformation as much as, all the transformation of eating habits or lifestyle habits or fitness habits. In terms of nutrition, though, you are teaching people to be more caloric aware, right? I'm not familiar with your methods, but you're probably teaching people how to, in a more simple way, manage their calories better, right? So do you have any, like, your favorite tools that you are using to help women to be that, caloric, more mindful and aware, and help them to manage their food serving sizes, maybe food groups, to transform their health, but also to get that result on the scale, not ending up eating everything and not seeing result in there?
Yeah.
Sorry for the long question.
No. It's so I think the main thing to keep in mind is the way we burn calories every day. On average, 70% is burned at rest, so your basal metabolic rate. 15% is from non-exercise activity, so walking around, your job, chasing the kids, whatever. 10% is from digesting food, and then 5% is from exercise. So most people put the most effort into the thing that matters the least in the change they're trying to see in the mirror. And so once you know that, you can start focusing on the things that actually matter in the other 23 hours of the day. And I think the best way, and those categories can be higher or lower based on how optimal, your lifestyle is. And so if you're someone who's a little more sedentary with your job, you have to create that, that deficit by going on more walks while you're, not at work, or getting up and going on a walk on your lunch break, forcing these habits so that you can create that energy deficit that we need to see. Because if you're sedentary, the only way to create an energy deficit is to eat less. And I don't like to do that. I want to feed people more while they move more and create it that way. But that being said, you need to have some kind of awareness of how much you're consuming. And the problem is like, where do people start, So with anything, you just have to take baby steps and just try it and be willing to not be really good at it at first. And that's kind of the learning curve with calorie tracking. Is the app that I use is called MyFitnessPal. Very common, very widely used app. And it gets better every day. You can now scan barcodes, take pictures of food. It saves your commonly entered foods, save recipes, etc. So it gets better and better. But that being said, just try it. That's how you get good at anything. Just try it and start to gather data. Just track and don't make huge commitments. Don't say something like, I'm going to track 6 meals this week. Just start with 2 meals. It's like 1 meal a day, right? Like just start with 1 meal a day and just start gathering data. Once you start tracking 1 meal a day, you start to see how many calories that meal is, right? And weigh your food. Don't use tablespoons and cups. They're inaccurate. I'm a firm believer in just weighing your food. Again, not that you're going to weigh your food the rest of your life. That's not what we want. I don't weigh my food. I wouldn't expect anyone else to do it for life. But by doing it for a short period of time, you're going to learn what a portion size looks like. And you'll realize, oh, wow, I was eating a lot of this cooking oil, and that's a lot of fat. I was using this dressing on my salad in this amount. That's why I can't lose weight, because this dressing is 500 calories because it's mostly fat. You start to learn. You start to see things and how it affects your caloric intake. So maybe you don't become somebody who tracks every single meal, but you gain an awareness. You gain an awareness of, oh, that's why I can't lose weight, because these nuts that I'm eating are high in fat, and fat is more calorie dense. It's 9 calories per gram as opposed to protein and carbs that are only 4 calories per gram. So if I cut down on these almonds that I'm eating so much, because I was told it was a healthy snack, now I can actually make some progress. Okay, now I'm seeing some change in the scale. My clothes are starting to fit better. Awesome. So just gaining little things like that is supremely helpful, because you'll realize things that you thought were healthy, like that granola you were eating, like 6 times a day, and you found out, wow, that's a lot of sugar and not the good kind. You start to see how little stuff like that can add up. Then you start to gain this picture of your goals and the things that you're doing habitually that are going against those goals. So just I encourage people to just dive in, just try tracking 1 meal and just starting to learn. Again, you can scan the barcode of stuff now, so they make it really easy. Back in my parents' day, they had to look up the food in a book and find it, and then do math, and then calculate out how many calories per meal they were having roughly. And it was always approximate. Now we just take a picture and it's done. So really no excuse to just not try it. But again, people hear calorie tracking, and I think just that term makes them think, that sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like math. I don't want to do math and work. It's not. It gives you the power to never have to struggle with this again, is the ironic part about it.
Yeah. So tracking for a period of time, gaining awareness of the food groups that you are eating, and doing it gradually, and then applying, I guess, to okay, now I know what I'm consuming, how many calories it has on average, and now I can adjust different foods in different food groups to make progress according to, better data. I think the initial challenge to start doing that is what scares a lot of people. And that's why a lot of people would choose fat diet, because it seems like much simpler work. I just skip this food group, no carbs or, whatever. And then I don't have to count or anything. And then in the long run, very often it backfires, because now you don't know anything about food still. And you're thinking that you can consume all of these foods as long as you are staying, in the rule book of this specific diet, like no carbs or something like that. So it's a great method. Me personally, I like to help people to kind of simplify that sometimes, meaning that, if you're trying to lose weight, maybe instead of fat in the bottle, you're going to eat fatty foods that will have less fat, provide more satiety, and also you'll get more nutrients from that. So a lot of my clients, they help them to track their food in that way. So they just eliminate more processed stuff for the purpose of weight loss. Thank you for sharing, your methods and where you put your focus on when it comes to healthy and sustainable weight loss. Appreciate, and again, appreciate all the content you are creating and all the information you are spreading. That's, I'm learning myself a lot. So thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with people, maybe with women, especially when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to health, be that some tip, practical advice, or just general mindset tip or advice? Something important.
It's I think that above all, the mindset is the most important thing. And I think that mothers, especially busy women, et cetera, sometimes that can fall to the back burner when life happens and things get busy and the family priorities come in. I think it's so important how you start your day. And I'm very adamant about, how you start every day can kind of set you up to process and proceed with life a little bit easier. So I like in my program and anyone really, I just say, how are you starting your day? And do you start your day by looking at your phone? If you start your day by looking at your phone and doom scrolling through social media, and you habitually find yourself in a negative mindset after that, that's probably not the best way to start your day. So I recommend people replacing that simple habit with just 30 minutes of self-care. Meditate, read, drink your coffee, do some deep breathing. And over time, it kind of has a cumulative effect. If you start your day the right way, life's going to happen regardless, but you're able to process life a lot easier. You're able to make better decisions. You're able to become mindful of your emotions, and your mind becomes a servant and not your master over time. So that way you can become mindful of the things that are self-sabotaging you. So your emotions that you associate with food, how you deal with stress. A lot of us escape stress with food. We feel negative emotions. We want to escape those emotions by replacing them with temporary feel-good emotions that we get from tasty food, sugary food. And the only way you can rewire that habit is to become aware of it in the first place. And so by practicing mindfulness through, meditation and starting your day that way, it sets you up for success to better manage those emotions. And meditation has been clinically proven to reduce anxiety and depression. So it's got the clinical backing, and I'm a firm believer in it. So I think that everything stems from that. I think that once we become mindful, we can actually address the obstacles we have and the obstacles we place on ourselves, so that we can make some progress and start doing things differently and see progress with whether it's our body, our career, our relationship, whatever it is. If we become mindful of our own wiring and how it affects us, then you can finally change and think in a different way and start to see some success in those areas.
Yeah, mindfulness is a huge thing. For me, it was a huge thing. Like that's how I healed my relationship with sweet stuff, because I used to use it to treat like difficult emotions that would rise up. And uh, as soon as I learned how to deal with my emotions without food, like this, craving and never satiated need to eat sweets, it just disappeared, because there is, I'm not medicating with food anymore. So yeah, mental side of nutrition and eating, it's really big.
Absolutely.
And the last small couple of questions. What's your favorite meal? Like if you were to have your last meal, what would that be?
I'm so boring. I like steak and potatoes. Just give me like a good grass-fed New York strip with like a baked potato with a bunch of butter and salt and pepper, and then some A1 sauce on the steak and some orange juice. I think a glass of milk. I'm gonna take a glass of milk. Steak, potatoes, glass of milk. And my girlfriend, if she heard this, she would just be rolling her eyes like, oh my gosh, you eat that like every night. But that's my thing. I love it. I've always loved it. That's my favorite meal. And the other night we had we were talking and we were like, if you could only eat 3 foods for the rest of your life, right? 3 foods, that's it. Which ones would you eat? If you're like stranded on an island, that's all you had. And her answers were pizza, ice cream, and there was this one other thing. It was like, you're like really good tasting foods. And she asked me and I was like, steak, potatoes, spinach. And she was like, if I could have a drink, I'd have orange juice. Then I'm getting all my micronutrients. It was the nerdiest answer you could possibly imagine. I wasn't even thinking about enjoyment. I was like, what nutrients do I need? All right, I'm going to get so that was like, I think if I did that, I could probably survive and function and probably be at my best. And she was like, that's the most boring answer I've ever heard. So
yeah, but it's delicious. I do love all those foods, so I can understand that. And the last, I'm a huge fan of intermittent fasting. Personally, I love it. Mm-hmm. Like, what's your take on that?
I think that it has its place, but like most other things, there's a very right way and a very wrong way to do it. I think that if you're coached and guided with it, it has a place. But I think that people view it, unfortunately, as a magic trick for fat loss. And it's overemphasized. And I think that people get led down this road and without having, again, it's the same thing as any other approach. If they don't have that base of education, it's a method that can result in some harm because people they're just not eating, right? They don't understand that you still need to hit the same caloric intake in that window. And it works for a lot of people because they're just eating less. Like if you tell 1,000 people to just not eat for 16 hours, of course they're going to probably eat less because they're eating less throughout the day. But I do think, for more advanced clients, it might be something that I would do to promote some fat loss. But I'm always, and I've tried it for myself. I've done it myself. When I was getting ready for the military, I wanted to get super lean and it worked, but I was also tracking my calories, and most people are not tracking their calories. So again, it comes down to if you're not calorically aware, it's a very advanced method. I think that it does have its place. But like if I had a client who had been with me for like a year, had demonstrated a level of compliance with their macros, was just crushing everything, I was like, you know what, let's try either carb cycling or intermittent fasting or one of these things because you're ready for that. I think that most people are not ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. And for a lot of people end up just not eating for that, period of time, and then eating whatever and not eating, like before they weren't eating all this, vitamins and minerals, and now they even more not eating that. And that's usually not a great place to be.
I think that's the danger of it is with the average person, it can create cravings, and they're going to fill those cravings with comfort food because again, they haven't developed any kind of nutritional education yet. So they use it as an excuse to binge during that 6-hour window, and then it's not really doing anything for you. So I think that's the other reason why I wouldn't recommend it for most people.
Yeah, exactly. I actually saw quite a lot of people like on social media kind of advertising that, as long as you're eating just in one window, you can eat whatever the rest of the day. But But if that's whatever doesn't provide you your essential nutrition, it's going to be a disaster at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And also a lot of people, end up having cravings. And cravings actually very often are just a way of the body to say, you're missing a lot of stuff and I need that. And
mineral deficiency usually, 100%.
So can be used for good and for not so good. I'm personally using it for convenience and mental focus because it's proven that it keeps you in that more alert and focused state because you aren't getting nutrition. And for the body, it's a little bit of stress that raises your stress hormones enough to keep you focused.
Yeah, I can agree with that 100%. I do my best work in the morning when I've had a coffee and have not eaten anything yet. Like I have my little coffee with maybe a little collagen protein. That's it. But when I have when my body is not spending energy digesting food, that's when I'm crushing work. I'm just creative as heck. So I can definitely agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So thank you again, Maverick. That was amazing conversation. I really loved, hearing your points of view about all these different diets and approach to weight loss and everything. Thank you for sharing all of this and keep doing your amazing content. And the last question is where people can find you, where people should go to follow you. You learn more about your coaching and get inspired.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Angela. I appreciate the opportunity. It was an amazing conversation as well on my end. And as far as finding us, Maverick Online Coaching. If you search that on Instagram, Facebook, website, that's where we are everywhere. Spotify, our podcast. So, which we'd love to have you on our podcast as well, Angela. But yeah, just Maverick Online Coaching. That's where you can find us.
Cool. I'm going to link, your Instagram, your website that I checked out, and your podcast in the show notes so people can easily find you. And as far as your podcast, let me know. I'll be happy to guest podcast also.
Awesome.
Thank you. And have an awesome rest of the day. Really appreciate you taking the time.
You too, Angela. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.